If we've never met, my name's Clint, and I'm part 2 of a series called Wait and See. And thanks, Hannah's got me a little prop here to help me out. And I'll explain that in just a moment. But just a little recap. Last week we talked about sowing and reaping. And that what happens is just the principle that we sow one day and we reap another. And what we sow, we reap later and we reap greater. And so what's going on in your world right now is what's going on in my world right now really is an accumulation of all the things that we've sown in the past. That what we put into practice yesterday, we're now reaping today. And some of us, we can point to some really good areas of our life because we sowed really, really well. And some of us can point to some other areas of life that aren't going so well. And primarily that's because we didn't sow very well. That the decisions, the place we land in today is because what we decided yesterday. And then the good news here, though, is into the future. The future we want is going to be determined by the decisions we make today. What are we sowing today to help us reap what we want to reap in the future? And as we talked about this last week, we said, hey, and if we think through all the various different areas of life, all of us can probably identify 1, 2, 3, some areas of life where we're just killing it, where things are going really, really well, and we're like, yes, because we're sowing well. And likewise, most of us can identify 1, 2, 3 areas of life that aren't going so well, and it's, again, because of what we're sowing. That there's no one that's got everything together in every area of life. And you might be here today, and you might be thinking, why is it that when I know I want this for the future, why is it that I sow that? And in fact, all of us do this. In fact, if you're here and you go, yeah, there's areas of my life where I'm sowing this, but I really want that. Why am I making these poor decisions, sometimes over and over again? Can I suggest that you're in really, really, really good spiritual company? Because the Apostle Paul is a spiritual giant. He wrote half of the letters in the New Testament. He says in the letter he wrote to the church in Rome, he said, hey, the things I want to do, I don't do. And the things I don't want to do are the very things I find myself doing. How many of us can relate to that? And what I want to explore today a little bit about is hey, why do we do that? Where does that come from? And why is that our nature? And the question I really want to ask is this, is why do we keep making decisions today that jeopardize our tomorrow? Let me now explain this. Who hasn't had breakfast this morning? Who hasn't had breakfast? I know there's some of you that haven't had breakfast. I have got some delicious treats from Jean's Bakery and Cafe up the road, and I just need 4 volunteers that haven't had breakfast, that are feeling a little bit peckish, to come up here right now, and I want to help you out because I'm that nice a guy. But one of them has to be my daughter. You just come. One of them has to be my daughter, Micaiah, because I said to you last week, if you've got a teenager, get them here today. Bribe them if you have to. I smoke what I sell. So come on, Micaiah. I bribed her by offering that. I don't tell you to do something wrong. You need 3 more people. Just come up. Winners are grinners. Yeah, come on. Just come. Come on. Come and choose one. We've got some sort of hazelnut thing, some sort of cinnamon scroll. Take your pick. This is my gift. Yeah, man, go. Take your pick. Yep. Take one, put it on a plate, yep. Okay, just don't eat it yet. Just put it on your plate, and I've got to explain something to you. All right, what do we got? Okay. Now, I hope you guys are hungry.
Yes.
Okay. Good. Because here's my challenge to you, okay? You've got to leave if you can eat this now, you can enjoy it, you can make the people around you envious, go hard. Okay? If you want to share, that's up to you. If you don't want to share, totally fine. I understand. I wouldn't either. But here's what I want to offer you. If you keep this till the end of the service and you don't eat it, you don't take a bite, I will let you eat it and I'll give you something even better at the end of the service. Okay? So it's your choice. But you're not allowed to hide it under the seat, put it 3 seats across. It's got to stay on your lap so it's tempting you the whole time. Okay? So you take those back to your seat, sit there. If you want to eat it, eat it. If you want to get something much better, then you come and I'll give it to you at the end, okay? I'm watching too. If you tell me you've waited and I've seen it on the floor, I'm not giving you your price. All right. So, the reason I did that is because what I want to talk about is what I've labeled appetites. Appetites. Because it's appetites I believe, that cause us to make decisions today that jeopardize what we want for tomorrow. It's appetites. And the easiest thing to think of when you think of appetites is food, but hey, there's a whole lot of appetites that you and I have got. Let me just take you through some. You could probably identify more, but some appetites are acceptance. All of us want to be accepted. We're drawn to environments where we're accepted, and we try and hide from environments where we feel rejected. All of us have an appetite for acceptance, intimacy. We've all got a desire for intimacy. Power. We've got an appetite for power, don't we? I don't know about you, but I'd rather be the one making the decision than the one that's responsible for outworking the decision. If we can choose to have power or no power, we'd tend to say, yeah, I want power. Well, what other ones have we got up here? We've got respect. Come on, all of us, we have an appetite to be respected. We want people to respect us, to be important. We want to be recognized, right? We want that recognition to come our way. That's why when we're so young, we're always, we're doing something and we're like, Mum, Dad. Come on, how many of us have done this? You've done something really, really cool. Like, you've done something, you're by yourself, you do something really cool, and then you have a little look around to see if anyone saw. Have you ever done that? Maybe you made a real good basketball shot at the playground, and you're like, oh, someone better have watched that, Because we want recognition, fame. And most people have said, hey, would you like to be famous or not? Yeah, I'll take fame, even though we see the price that famous people pay for that fame. We've got an appetite for progress, right? Come on, we want to see something done. Oh, I don't care what we're doing, as long as we're making progress, I'm happy. We've got an appetite for it. We've got an appetite to be envied. Come on, we want other people to look at us and be like, oh, there's something about her. There's something about him. I want what he's got. An appetite to be envied. We've got an appetite for stuff. For more stuff. For new stuff. That's why you've got boxes full of stuff packed away in your garage. Because we've got an appetite for stuff. And we've got an appetite for responsibility. Might be some people here, and maybe you're starting out in your work career, and man, you've got a little bit of responsibility, and you're like, man, I just want more, because there's an appetite in us for it. We've got an appetite for achieving. I don't care what it is, but I just want to achieve some stuff. Another degree, another qualification, another certificate, another title. Is winning? This is the last one there. Just got an appetite to win. I'll do whatever it costs to win. I don't care who I have to walk over, who I have to hurt. Man, with my appetite for winning so huge. So some of these appetites might be jumping out to you more than others, but within all of us are these appetites that drive our behavior. And then just 3 real quick facts about appetites. The first is this, that these appetites, God created them, but sin's distorted them. Your appetite for food, your appetite for intimacy. You can see it there right in the beginning in the Garden of Eden. Right, where God created inside of us an appetite to be hungry, an appetite for intimacy. You think of the appetite for progress, how you just see God and all the progress that He makes as you read through the Old Testament. That these appetites, they come from God. But what happens? Sins come and sins distorted them. Second fact about appetites, and again, you'll know this to be true, is that appetites are never fully and finally satisfied. Your appetites are never fully, finally satisfied. I'll show it to you. On Christmas Day, I bet you ate so much food at lunchtime, and you probably even had dessert at lunchtime. You're like, I'm so full. I can't eat anything else. And about 2.5 hours later, you're like looking in the fridge. Going to find something else. That's someone, you've already got 27 pairs of shoes. And then you see another pair that you want, and it feels so good when you go online and buy them. And then they turn up, and about 3 days later, you're like, you've already seen another pair that you now want even more. Because our appetites are never fully and finally satisfied. We get a little bit of power, we want more. We get a little bit of wealth, we want more. We get a little bit of fame, we want more. And then the third fact about appetite, and again, you'll know this to be true, is your appetites, they always whisper, now. They never say later. They always say, you want this now. Have it now. You deserve it now. Take it now. Eat that thing now. Go on, Micaiah. Eat it now. It looks so good. You haven't had breakfast. Eat it now. Now. But our appetites never say later, do they? They always whisper to us now. They never whisper to us later. And it's these appetites that cause us to give up something we want in the future for something that's right in front of us today. And what I want to do is I want to take us back to an Old Testament story. It's found in Genesis 25 that I believe outlines this so well and gives us some powerful principles to draw upon that help us understand, hey, why we too, like Paul, start doing the things we don't want to do and don't do the things we want to be doing. It's a story of two brothers, Esau and Jacob, or as they're more commonly known, Jacob and Esau. Maybe you've heard of the story. If you've heard of the story, the one thing you can probably remember is that Esau is really, really hairy. It's like just the thing that always stands out to most people when they hear this story. Just to contextualize it a little bit, to understand, because this will make sense as we go through the account, that they lived in a time where there was this thing called a birthright, and a birthright was very, very important, and a birthright carried a lot of weight. And the way someone got a birthright was if they were the oldest son in the family, they got given the birthright. So as the oldest son, you got the birthright. And then the birthright probably had two primary just things that were really, really beneficial for you. The first one was that you got a larger share of the inheritance than everyone else. So if you had the birthright, your share of inheritance was a lot bigger than other people in your families. For some of us, that might not make a difference because all mum and dad are giving us a whole lot of bills and stuff anyway. But in Jacob and Esau's case, there was quite a substantial amount of wealth. So to actually get twice as much inheritance as anyone else was really, really significant. But what was probably more significant that came with the birthright was if you got given the birthright, you were in a position to settle any disputes that came up within the family. So if something went wrong or the family needed to make a decision and people were butting heads, the child with the birthright would actually get to come in, hear the cases, and then pretty much do what they wanted to do. Okay, so you got to then say to the other brothers and sisters, now this is the way that things are. And if you've got siblings, that's an awesome right to have, right? Because you can tell your brothers and sisters how things are going down, and that's it. And if most of us have got a brother or a sister, maybe multiple, you can see the power in that. So if you had the birthright, this thing was quite special and quite unique. So let's dive into this account. The boys grew up, and Esau became a skillful hunter, a man of the open country. Esau was the boy that liked to be outdoors. He had the knife attached to him. He maybe took the bow and arrow. He went out. He liked to kill. He liked to hunt. He'd be up in the hills. He'd be in the outdoors looking for something. He'd be killing it, bringing it home, feeding the family. That's what Esau liked to do. He liked to get dirty. He liked to get smelly. He was like gone in the morning, home late in the evening. He's like, just send me outside. I want to be out there. Whereas Jacob was different. Jacob was content to stay at home among the tents. If we contextualize this a little bit, Esau was the kid that would like to be out there building tree huts, playing sports, throwing a ball around, kicking it down at the local park. Jacob preferred to be at home playing on his PlayStation, on his phone, the iPad, just sitting inside. Okay, that was Esau and Jacob. Isaac was the dad of Jacob and Esau. He had a taste for wild game. He loved a good steak or a nice piece of venison. So Esau was his favorite because he could deliver him nice slabs of meat. However, Rebecca, she loved Jacob. Jacob was more of a mummy's boy. Now, there's nothing wrong with mummy's boys. In fact, I can see a mummy's boy sitting right there with his arms folded who is in my family because he gets whatever he wants from his mum. And in fact, she's not in the room. The other night we're sitting there. Mindy comes out. Who's been eating the biscuit? What's wrong? Tyler. Oh, that's fine. Anyone else? Ooh. We just blame Tyler for everything and we can do what we want. It's the secret in the Creek House. Anything gets broken, Tyler. We thank him later. So there's nothing wrong with being a mama's boy. But Esau, man, his dad loved him. Jacob, his mum loved him. Once when Jacob was cooking some stew, Jacob loved to cook, was a good cook, could put on some good meals. So once Jacob's cooking some stew, Esau came in from the open country famished. He had an appetite. And again, if you've been around teenage boys for long, you can see what this is like. And then some of us that are older too, we maybe go all day, we've been at work or something, we got too busy to eat, you come home and as soon as you walk in the house, you can smell something cooking and you're like, I just want some. And so this is how Esau comes in. He's been hunting. He's probably carried something big all the way back. He's been in the bush walking for hours, carrying, hunting, doing his thing. He comes inside. He smells the stew and he is famished. He probably has that moment where, you know what it's like? Sometimes you don't realize how hungry you are and then you smell it and you're like, yes, yes. And that appetite really kicks in. He comes back famished. So he looks over to his little brother Jacob and he says, quick. Well, they're actually twins, but Jacob's the younger one. Esau's the older. He says, quick, let me have some of that red stew. I'm famished. Come on, brother. Hook me up. Give me some stew. I need a feed. I've been outside all day. You've got it right there. And what Jacob does, I think, again, if maybe you're in a family where there's a couple of brothers, or maybe you know families where there's multiple brothers, you might see this play out from time to time where younger brothers are always looking to the older brother to get something. It's like they always want recognition. The younger brother's always happy to go to the older one and ask for something, ask for this, ask for that. They're always looking for approval and acceptance. But occasionally, the older brother needs something from the younger brother. And because the older brother's a little bit bigger, because the older brother tends to be a little bit stronger, when the older brother goes to the younger brother to ask for something, the younger brothers can be quite cunning. They can just be a little bit smarter because they haven't got the size of the older brother, so they have to use their brains in order to hold their place in the family a little bit. And so Esau says, I'm famished. Can I have some stew? I've got an appetite that I want to fill. And Jacob looks at him. And I wonder if Jacob paused and thought about it for a moment. You want something from me, bro? And he says, first, sell me your birthright. First, give me that birthright. I've got the stew. It smells good. You're hungry. You can have some stew, provided you give me your birthright. Look, I'm about to die, Esau said. Well, this is what we have a tendency to do, right? When our appetites start getting big on us. If I don't have that thing, my life's going to suck. If I don't get that recognition, is it really? If I'm not accepted by those people, life's not going to be worth living. He says, I'm about to die. It's like, bro, you literally just walked into the house on your own feet. You're fine. You can wait just a little bit longer. No, this is what appetites do to us. No, I'm going to die. What good is the birthright to me? What good is the birthright to me? Well, I think if we really to understand his mindset at this time, right? You'd probably just add the word now on the end there. What good is the birthright to me now? Because I think anyone can go, hey, here's the benefits of the birthright, bro. Think of how much your parents say everything's worth. You get twice as much as anyone else. That's worth a lot. It's a lot. You get to make decisions for the family. That's really valuable. But right now, when Esau's feeling hungry, when mum and dad are healthy, when that money's off in the distant future, what good is my birthright to me now? Then Jacob gave Esau some bread and some lentil stew. He ate and he drank and he got up and left. Esau made the trade. He made the trade. Okay. You can have my birthright. You can have the bigger inheritance. You can have the rights to make decisions for the family. I'm just going to take this, of all things, lentil stew. Like, come on. And it must have smelled good. Jacob must have been an incredible cook. Because, I don't know, that's a lot to give up for lentil stew. He lost a lot for some sake of a lentil stew. And we can look at this account And we can be like, come on, Esau, you're an idiot. You suck. Are you stupid? Are you dumb? What's wrong with you? But then we can think about it for just a little bit longer. And we can realize that's what we do. That's what you do. That's what I do. Every time we take something immediate instead of something we want even more in the future. You see, so many of us, so these appetites inside of us that drive our behavior. They force us to take something now when we could have something so much better in the future. It's these appetites that cause us to take what's immediate at the expense of what's most important. And some of us, as we're sitting here, you're already starting to have things go through your mind like, man, I'm sacrificing that in my future because I keep saying yes to that today. Or maybe, man, I've lost something that I hoped that I'd have today because I said yes to those immediate things yesterday. And the reason I encouraged everyone last week was if you have a teenager, get them here today because, man, the decisions that we make in this area can have a profound impact for a long, long time in our life. And the reason I wanted there to be as many teenagers here as possible is because, man, if you learn this stuff, you're going to start to think this through and apply some of this when you're a teenager, man, you've got so many more years ahead of you. And you can come back and you can say thanks to me one day. But it doesn't just apply to teenagers. Let's just go through a few examples, right? How many of us maybe have found ourselves in a situation where we craved acceptance so much? So we told some gossip or we said something about a friend of ours that we shouldn't have said in the circle. We said something bad about them in order to be accepted here. And this was just a group of people we've just met, but our appetite for acceptance was so big. We said something about one of our good friends, but then we lost the friendship because of what we said over here, but all we got was a couple of minutes of acceptance, and then it was over. And we lost a good friendship. How many of us, because of an appetite for recognition, have put our hands up to take credit for something in our workplace that we didn't deserve, that we didn't do? And yes, we got the recognition in the moment for it, but what we lost was the respect of our peers and the very people we wanted to continue working with into the future. How many of us have maybe come to a place where we choose to have another drink, and then another drink, and then another drink at the expense of being with our family? How many of us have maybe come to a place where in a moment of lust, we've made a decision that's led to us losing the respect of our kids and our closest friends? Some of us, man, we're in a place where the deepest hurt in our life comes from a place not where our appetite's been out of control, but the appetite of one of our parents has been out of control. And they made decisions when we were younger. And they made a decision to chase after that person and leave us at home. And we carry that hurt of rejection and pain because their appetite was so strong. And they didn't know how to control it. Or they chose the bottle over the family. Or they chose to take something that wasn't theirs and paid a price for it. And we're the ones that still feel the pain of it. That's the power of what we're talking about. That's the power of these appetites. You see, when these appetites get out of control, when we start following them, when we start letting them guide all of our decisions, do you know what? We don't only hurt ourselves, but man, we can scar those that are closest to us. We can do significant damage to the very people that would say we love the most. That's the power of appetites. That's the power of what can happen when we make the choice of what's immediate rather than what matters most. And what's interesting about this is it's not necessarily always a sinful thing. It's not always an immoral thing that we can choose. A bowl of lentil stew, that's not sinful. That's not immoral. But look how much Esau lost because he chose the bowl of stew. And what Esau lost the most, I think, actually has got nothing to do with his inheritance. Has got nothing to do with the fact that he was able to then, make decisions for the family. But if you fast forward the clock a bit and you follow the lineage of Isaac's family, you'll discover that one day God appears in a burning bush and he starts speaking to a man called Moses. And Moses is like, who are you? And then like all of us would freak out if a bush started talking to us, right? It just sounds a bit crazy, but a bush on fire starts talking to us. We'd be like, who are you? Do you know how God introduced himself to Moses? He says, I am the God of Abraham, of Isaac, and Jacob. He could have introduced himself as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Esau. But Esau sold his birthright. So he was the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And again, if you've been around Christianity for long, you've heard that said so many times. God the Father of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. Esau is not even mentioned. You see, 2,000 years after that, Matthew would write down the account because Jesus had come, and Matthew realized what Jesus had done so phenomenal. Well, I've got to record this. And one of the promises we've got, and that link Jesus back to all the work of the Old Testament, is the line of their lineage. And it's in the greatest story ever told, the story that's celebrated every year at Christmas time when we celebrate the birth of Jesus. As people read this account, they start to read that lineage, and it says, Abraham begot Isaac, who begot Jacob. And Esau's name is cut from the story. You see, that's the power of what's immediate versus what's most important. What we don't understand when we're in this situation sometimes and we're choosing between what we want now and what we want most, we really have no idea what truly hangs in the balance of making the decision to go after what we want most. Esau had no idea that his name wouldn't fit in that lineage the way that it could have. If he just waited a little bit. I'm sure mum or dad would have fed him at some stage. I'm sure he could have cooked himself something. But instead, in this moment, he took what he wanted right now, and he paid a significant price for it. He lost it all. He lost it all for some lentil stew. Let me ask you a question. What's your lentil stew? What's your lentil stew? It could be a person. It could be a thing. It could be a place that you know you should be saying no to, but you keep finding yourself saying yes to. What's your lentil stew? So this is, honestly, I think this is all about maturity. Because the more mature we are, the easier it is to make decisions today that are going to have a difference, make a difference tomorrow. The illustration I'd use for this, if you've ever been around a young kid and you look up at the sun and you say to a child, man, that sun, do you know how big the sun is? The sun is huge. It is way bigger than Earth. And they go, no, it's not. You're like, you cannot understand quite how big that sun is. It's huge. And the kids go, no, it's not. Look, I can cover it with my hand. And they, because of their immaturity, think that their hand's bigger than the sun because their hand can cover the sun. But it's because their hand's immediate and the sun's a long way into the distance. If you want to know how mature you are, you want to know how mature I am? Are we making decisions based on our hand, or are we making decisions based on the sun? So many of us, the reason we're sowing things that lead to us reaping what we don't want to reap is because we're choosing the immediate, we're choosing the lentil stew rather than what matters most and what truly is important. Let me show you this next line. Oh, I love this next line. This next line is one of the reasons why, man, I believe so much in what the scriptures say and how they've been put together, because this is what the next line says. It says, so Esau despised his birthright. And the reason I say that is because there's so much just in this. Because what Esau does here is the exact thing that you do. It's the same thing that I do when we turn our back on what we want most in order to take what's immediate. You see, once Esau lost his birthright, he despised it. Oh, who cares about birthright? Birthright's not that important. It doesn't really matter that much. Who really cares? And we justify it away in our heads, right? Yeah. She wasn't that good a wife anyway. It doesn't really matter. Those peers that I work with, I'll find better ones one day. That friend, the closest friend you've had for 10 years, he was all right. I'll find other ones. Doesn't really matter too much. Yeah, my relationship with my kids, yeah. I've got a good friend. Doesn't really matter so much about them. That's what we do, right? We totally start to despise the very thing that meant so much to us because we've made other choices. So just let me ask the question. What is your lentil stew? What is your lentil stew? And in just a moment, I'm going to ask the band to come back up, and they're going to lead us in a song that I think captures God's heart for us based on what we've been talking about so well. But what I want to do is I just want to take a moment just to set you up with a couple of things to think about, because I think it'd be a waste for us to stand up and walk out of this room after talking about something I think that's so real and so meaningful to so many of us. So this room is just like the last session. It's painfully quiet. Painfully quiet. And I've learned a couple of things as a public speaker over a long time now. Sometimes the room is painfully quiet because what you're saying is stupid. Shut up. You've lost everyone's attention and they don't care. Other times the room is painfully quiet because stuff's landing for people. Because God's just doing something. Because it's like, man, I'm being confronted with the reality of my own life, of my own choices, of maybe the choices of those that are around me. And so as we sing this next song, as maybe you take a moment to reflect on the lyrics, as maybe you just, man, get to a place where you're like, man, I want to let God do something. Here's a couple of thoughts. One, some of us, we know that we've chosen lentil stew. And when we know the mistakes that we've made, and we've had to outlive and outwork the consequences of those mistakes. And maybe as we're singing, what God's calling us to do is just to say sorry, to repent. Say, God, I made that choice. I took the immediate over what matters most. And maybe we're still feeling guilt. Maybe we're still feeling shame. Maybe we're still feeling embarrassed about it. We can apologize to God for that. And here's the interesting thing, right? No matter what choice we've made in the past, they're still forgivable. God will forgive us. But some of them, we've still got to live with the consequences of. But I think something so powerful can happen when we go before God and say, God, I'm sorry I've chosen blah over blah. And I regret it. So some of us, man, we know that we're tracking in a certain direction right now. But because of the decisions we're making today, we're just leaning more towards that lentil stew, towards that lentil stew, towards that lentil stew. You know, I think God's just tapping you on the shoulder going, hey, bro, hey, mate, this is your wake-up call. This is your reminder. This is what you've got a potential to lose if you keep going down that track. I'm going to say, God, help me. Help me make wise choices. Others of us, we're still carrying hurt, and we're still carrying pain because of the shrapnel of someone else's appetite that's come back. Maybe it was a parent. Maybe it was a good friend. Maybe it was a wider family member. Someone that's really hurt us through making poor choices because of their appetites. And we've got to ask, God, help fill that hole. God, help make sense of this. Help me move forward from it. And I believe you know exactly what you need to say. And I believe that God's good enough and kind enough and present enough that when we go to Him, He'll meet us right where we are.